That's too much Palenicek. Okay, good. So once again, I'm very pleased to be here to once again open a uniMIND Symposium. I want to bring a little personal story in here today. Why are we doing this? The Mind Foundation, for one, has the mission to bring psychedelic therapy into public health care. We do evidence-based public education, professional trainings for medical professionals, etc. But why do we really do this? And for that, I want to introduce a personal testimony that's very powerful, I think. And just before we get there, if I could see hands, how many of you have attended a psychedelic research conference before? Okay, that's about half, yeah. And how many of the people in the room would say that they're well informed about how psychedelics work? That's a bit more than half, like 70%. Nice, so I can skip slides, we're already late. I'll make it short. Good. So let's acknowledge we're standing on the shoulders of giants. We're in a city and even a university that has a very special meaning for psychedelic research. As early as in the 1950s, Czech researchers systematically studied LSD and other psychedelic compounds. Stan Grof was one of them, who started in 1956, remember that date. Interestingly, he noticed something that I think holds up to today very much. LSD and other psychedelics are unspecific catalysts or amplifiers of mental processes. If properly used, it could become something like the microscope or telescope of psychiatry. So psychedelics do not just have pharmacological properties, they don't just change something in the brain. Maybe even what's most interesting is what happens in the mind, in the subjective experience. We can scan the neurobiology nowadays, but maybe it's what happens in how psychedelics and their experiences touch our memories, our emotions, our sense-making. So they acutely alter perception. You see here a graph from the Alto States questionnaire that would assess these different factors, but you all know how psychedelics work, so that's great. And let me say it clearly, the experiences are often described as elating, deeply meaningful, very rich, valuable, fun, but just as well can they be absolutely dreadful and horrible. Let that not go unnoticed. And again, as early as 1956, Humphrey Osmond, here seen with Aldous Huxley, termed the name psychedelics and said, to fathom hell or soar angelic, just take a pinch of psychedelic. Now, on the neurobiological side, there happens a lot. We'll hear about this later today. Again, you'll see the slides again later. But what psychedelics do, they disrupt rumination, they disrupt rigid patterns of brain activity that lead to certain psychological correspondences. And they enable us to make new connections more easily. They increase neuroplasticity. People can change. It has something to do with transformation. So why do I tell you all of this? Why do I repeat all of this? And how does this relate to real human cases? This is where it gets spicy. I brought with me today a testimony, a video, from our recently completed clinical trial with psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. This was the largest publicly funded science-initiated psilocybin trial to date. We completed this in Germany with colleagues at the ZT Mannheim, Charité Berlin, and the Mind Foundation. And here we will hear the participant from that study describe his psilocybin experience and how it has changed his outlook on life, because something truly remarkable happened. And also, those of you who are familiar with the methodology of randomized controlled trials, you might notice that he brings something up which is a real limitation and a challenge that we face in psychedelic research and beyond, about the methodology, and which might require a paradigm shift, maybe not so much later. What you see here is the study design from the episode trial. So what am I trying to get at? Depression is typically measured in linear scales. Patients fill out questionnaires. Symptom changes are quantified numerically. However, these metrics, they do not capture the rich qualitative subjective experience, the meaning that goes with this, the insights, the existential topics that are touched. So these limitations are further compounded with the problem of blinding, especially in psychedelic clinical trials. And this study participant here, he may not look better on paper. He doesn't score better in the depression scores after treatment, but something important has changed. So let's hear from him directly. I hope the sound works. It should be. Yeah. The video is in German. We've subtitled it for you.
Und man dadurch auch den Glauben daran verlieren kann, dass man diesen Punkt überhaupt irgendwann kommen kann. Ich bin einfach nicht dafür gemacht, dem Leben zu vertrauen. Ja? Ich bin einfach nicht dafür gemacht, jemals irgendeine Meinung von mir größer Null zu haben. So, ich habe es für eine kurze Zeit erfahren dürfen. Und jetzt gehöre ich tatsächlich sogar zu denen, die, glaube ich, im Fragebogen nicht sonderlich besser gescored haben danach. Und ich möchte trotzdem einen Punkt machen, der mir wahnsinnig wichtig ist. Wenn Sie in einem stockdunklen Raum sitzen und verzweifelt hoffen, dass da irgendwo eine Tür drin ist, die nach außen führt, wo es ein bisschen heller ist, dann machen diese paar Prozentpunkte Gewissheit, dass da eine Tür ist, auch wenn das nicht danach sofort wieder ausgegangen ist, die machen einen riesengroßen Unterschied. Und wenn es nur ein halber Prozentpunkt in Hamilton ist, ist es mir völlig egal. Es macht einen riesengroßen Unterschied, ob es einen Grund gibt, weiter nach dieser Tür zu suchen.
Yeah, I find that very impactful. And I don't know if you noticed that sorrowful, crushing smile at the end. This is what we're here for. This is what we work on this for. This is why we want to bring psychedelic therapy into public healthcare, so that those who need it really have access to it. What we're seeing is not just a clinical trial result. It's a transformation that happened in this person. It's a lasting change through a moment of clarity and reconnection. It reminds us, too, that psychedelics do not just stretch, expand the mind. They challenge how we define treatment and mental health. That's an important topic for today. We'll hear many clinical talks, but there's another side. The other side is beyond treatment. You might have heard from states to traits, from treatment to growth. Patients or people who take the role of patient may want to continue their lifelong journey of learning. And maybe psychedelic experiences, with substances or without, can play a role in that. How can these experiences, then, is the question, foster health? How can they support salutogenesis, the recovery, maintenance, and promotion of health? How can, maybe on a larger scale, even a culture of consciousness be supported by this? How can the world be more ethical and sustainable, if that works for psychedelics? All relevant questions we face today. So, I wish you would only see this later, the animation disappeared. So, that brings us to today's symposium's theme, Metamorphosis. I think I've been dancing around this the whole time. Psychedelics catalyze transformation, not only of mood, but of perspective, of identity, and of meaning-making. Yet, at the same time, this promise comes in a deeply paradox situation. Experiences that tend to open the individual up and emotionally, socially, remain entrapped in a Kafkaesque system of bureaucracy, prohibition, social stigma. And this tension is something that we want to explore today. So not only shall we discuss, we should really engage with each other and try to think how can we change this in the future. So I want to invite you to think, not just passively listen, because after all, you are the scientists of the next generation. So let this intention guide our conversations today. I have 2 more slides. uniMIND, as an example, is an experiment in that direction of participation. It's a grassroots academic movement, you could say. It's a network with over 30 active journal clubs on 4 continents worldwide, which empowers early career researchers to explore the science of psychedelics and altered states in a rigorous interdisciplinary way. It's a grassroots response to institutional stasis. So if questions about consciousness, culture, and mental health are to be taken seriously, they must be studied seriously, and we need to explore all the possible instruments that we have. That means rigor, and it means inclusion. You can and you should be able to shape this together with us. And that's what we're here for today. Now, I have finally 2 questions for you guys. As we go through the day, carry these questions with you, reflect upon them, discuss them in your encounters here at the conference. Can psychedelic therapy support sustainable human growth, also facing the planetary crisis? And what kind of science and what kind of institutions do we need to make transformation possible and ethical? Thank you.